Hello, good morning. Kitacha here again. TAP beneficiary from Lagos State with TAP code TAP 2.2.225.1112 LA, point 20.83212. And I'm here to address the second part assignment of the ECB Element 1 course, which talks about innovation, types, and processes. So, very briefly, I'll touch on what innovation is, the types of innovation, processes of innovation, and the importance of innovation. I'll be reading from a book and then explain as I go. So, what is innovation? Innovation refers to the introduction of a new good or product or service or new quality that is improvement upon already existing goods, products, and services. Also, source of supply, method of production, and organization in an industry. So, basically, you innovate because you want to bring the synchronization between the evolution of your customers' expectation or desires and demands, right? So you're innovating because you want to take your services a notch higher. You want to start meeting needs that you were not meeting before, but you want to devise new means of meeting the old needs so that customers are more satisfied than they were. So what are the importance of innovation? Innovation helps to solve problems. This brings about solution to customers or clients' complaints. Adapting to change. Change is inevitable, and innovation helps to keep abreast of changes as they come. Maximizing globalisation, right? So markets all over the world are becoming more interlinked and greater opportunities are emerging, such as with technology. Facing competition. So to help retain or establish your company's cutting edge and remain relevant, not becoming redundant, it is important to compete strategically by having a dynamic business that cuts across board and cuts above the rest. And lastly, innovation helps evolving workplace dynamics. So the demographics in the workplace are constantly changing, such as we have now discovered with pandemic that people can actually work from home and achieve more. That reduces the burden on the company, in different aspects and ways, which we did not realize before the pandemic. And so it is important that we're able to evolve with the world as it evolves. So then we move on to the types of innovation. So there are quite a number of types of innovation. For the sake of this discussion, I'm going to limit mine to just 5, which I think cuts across board for innovations generally. And the first will be product innovation. So this is the idea that the development of a new product or an improvement on a new product will meet the need of your customers. So I'll take that again. Product innovation has to do with the development of a new product or an improved version of the existing product or an introduction of a new feature to the existing product. So example would be introduction of a new aspect to your product. So let's say, for instance, you used to produce phones with hairpiece, and then you decide that with the next model that you're coming up with, you produce AirPods instead of hairpiece, which is more convenient to use. You can also decide to improve the resolution of the camera. You can decide to extend the battery life. That's an example of product innovation. The second will be process innovation. So process innovation involves a combination of skills, facilities, technologies that are used to produce, support, and or deliver a product or service. So a brief example of this would be Henry Ford's innovation of bringing about the world's first vehicle assembly line. And he did this by changing the whole process entirely from a whole whooping 12 hours and breaking it down to a mere 90 minutes. So from 12 hours, the whole assembly line of a vehicle was broken down to last for just 90 minutes instead of 12 hours. So process innovation means that you're looking for new ways to render your service and product in a way that is faster and improved and better. So you're able to meet more needs faster. You're also able to satisfy the customers on a different or higher level. It also increases productivity for your company as a whole. The third will be business model innovation and technological innovation. So this is a two-part innovation in that it is based on two factors which are much influenced by the way in which the market evolves. So the technological aspect of that innovation deals with new or improved technology that are used for the development of goods, products, and services, right? While the business model innovation aspect deals with changing industries customer segment, etc., where the company can test different ways of monetizing the same product or service that they were using before. So an example of the tech innovation part will be in constantly improving on your product and service so that it is able to meet the technological demands as it were in today's world. An example will be of Nokia. When Nokia first came into the scene, there wasn't much, room or ground for smartphones, and so it made sense that Nokia ruled the world as a then. But eventually, when smartphones began to take over the world, Nokia was not smart enough to catch on to that ride and improve their phones so that they can also have a place in the smartphone world. They decided to stick to their old way of technology, and then eventually, by the time they were ready to come on board, the ship already sailed. And so that's what not jumping on innovation can do to you and your business. And an example of the business model innovation is a ready example would be Airbnb, Spotify, and Uber, changing the way we saw some businesses that we were quite familiar with before. I mean, Airbnb is an hoteling business, but they brought about a new niche for themselves and defined hoteling in a different manner, in a different way. I've experienced Airbnb before, and I think I can tell the difference between what a regular hotel does and what Airbnb does. And that difference that they offer is actually a need that most people didn't even realize they had until Airbnb started to provide it. That's what innovation can do for you. The next one would be organizational innovation. So this basically refers to the development of a new strategy and involves changing the company's business practices, organization of work, or its relationship with certain stakeholders. So for instance, companies can decide that they want to adopt a 4-day-a-week working schedule instead of the regular 5-day-a-week schedule, and that would make sense because they probably feel that their staff needs to rest more, especially for companies where they still get to work a bit on Saturday. So that means the staff probably has just Sunday, part of Saturday, and just Sunday to themselves. But with introduction of the 4-day-a-week working schedule, it means that they also get either Friday or Monday as part of their resting days or as their weekends. And then by the time they come back to work, they are more productive. And then lastly, we have marketing innovation. So this means developing a new marketing strategy that produces changes, for instance, in designing, in packaging, in other decisions making regarding the price or promotion of a product or service. So the most relatable example that comes to mind right now is that of Airtel. We see how Airtel takes the most random yet relatable scenario and bring it to us to show us why we need data in our lives. I mean, I don't see how rain and data could come together, but Airtel made that possible. And that is what innovation can do, marketing innovation. And so by the time you begin to think in that light, you just realize that anything is possible with innovation. And then very briefly, I'll talk on the steps of innovation. So innovation begins with idea generation and mobilization. What brings about innovation is that you have come up with something new. An idea has to be formed. There is no innovation without an idea generation. So the ideas are formed, and then the mobilization aspect has to do with moving the idea from one location to another, from one point to another. So you have generated an idea and you have suited it for this particular location. So you have generated an idea for the south. Can that idea also work in the north? Can it work in the east? That is what mobilization of the idea has to do with. And then secondly, we talk about advocacy and screening. So this helps to evaluate the feasibility of the business idea with its potential problems and benefits. Hence, a decision can be made about the idea's future, right? At this point, it is important to understand the difficulties involved in evaluating a truly innovative idea. So what this is basically saying is, an idea might sound good on paper, but upon going through screening or upon merging it with advocacy, does the idea still stand? And then experimentation, which is the third process of innovation. This has to do with testing the idea. You want to test the sustainability of the idea for an organization at a specific time. The process also generates new ideas with the information that is gathered on the result and feasibility of the original idea. So you can come up with something and decide to test it, And while testing it, a new idea is also resulting from the testing that you're seeing, because it is now more vivid, it is now more real, and then more ideas are coming to you. A very relatable example would be that of a drug, Viagra. Viagra is generally known as a manpower drug to the layman, but clinically it is used to treat erectile dysfunction in men. But initially, that drug was not created for that purpose at all. It was created for a heart problem, and then along the line, they discovered that the drug can also address sexual dysfunction in men, or erectile dysfunction in men. And for all the drug actually became more popular for its purpose of serving erectile dysfunction in men, not necessarily for the hard purpose for which it was created for. That is what experimentation can do in innovation. And then fourthly, we talk about commercialization. So after testing the idea, you want to commercialize it. You want to be sure that the idea would sell, the idea can sell. And then lastly, the idea then goes to diffusion and implementation. Diffusion has to do with the company accepting the idea that has been created, and implementation then has to do with setting up everything needed to support the idea. So this also allows, that's diffusion and implementation, also allows the organization to detect the next set of needs for customers, reviewing feedbacks, indicators for success metrics, and other benchmarks enable the organization to stimulate the innovative idea. So in conclusion, it is important to bear in mind that if you are going to innovate, you must be willing to be misunderstood, because sometimes your innovation ideas can be as mundane or as abstract as anything, and at first instance it might look like it would not make any sense, and people might actually misunderstand you. People might term it foolish, people might term it unwise, people might term it unsmart, dumb. But if you're willing to stick to it, so long as you know the vision, you know what the end game is, then it will make sense in the end. Well, this is just a brief discussion. For more information, I'm going to read more. I advise that you also, research more, read more, learn more. I also believe that we will discuss more about this as the course progresses. So thank you for listening. I hope you've learned a thing or two. I have, and I'm glad to be doing this. See you next time. Bye.